Hi, welcome to DfE Test 4. I've done DfE Test 1, 2 and 3 in separate videos. This is going to be a repeat of those. I'm going to go through the whole test under time conditions. So videos should last about 45 to 48 minutes. Okay, I'm going to do them under time conditions. Particularly in the mental math section, it's difficult for me to explain too much within the time limits, but hopefully what you'll see is on the right, I will be using the whiteboard to kind of write down the notation and the workings out that we need to do. I will put a few brief words in there as well to explain what I've done, particularly when it's necessary. Okay, but without further ado, let's get started.
Practice question. A school minibus travelled 640 kilometres. Taking 1 kilometre as equal to 5/8 of a mile, how many miles did the minibus travel? A school minibus travelled 640 kilometres. Taking 1 kilometre as equal to 5/8 of a mile, how many miles did the minibus travel?
Okay, so hopefully you can see a little bit of what I've done on the right hand side there. Okay, the answer is 400. I'm going to type that in before I run out of time. Okay, lots of people get confused with that one because they say 1 kilometre is 5/8 of a mile. It's exactly the same as saying 8 kilometres is 5 miles. So if you're comfortable with that, use it.
Question 1. During a school trip to Germany, each pupil was allowed to exchange £100 into euros for spending money. The exchange rate was 1.06 euros to the pound. How many euros did each pupil receive? During a school trip to Germany, each pupil was allowed to exchange £100 into euros for spending money. The exchange rate was 1.06 euros to the pound. How many euros did each pupil receive?
Okay, so honestly, in my opinion, one of the easiest questions you're going to get in the mental maths. Okay, £100, 1.6 is 100 times 1.6. Okay, it couldn't be easier. Okay, you do need to understand your conversions though.
Question 2. "90 pupils travel to an exhibition on 2 coaches. Each coach cost £180 to hire. The total entrance fee to the exhibition for all pupils was £90. How much did each pupil have to pay to meet the total cost?" "90 pupils travel to an exhibition on 2 coaches. Each coach cost £180 to hire. The total entrance fee to the exhibition for all pupils was £90. How much did each pupil have to pay to meet the total cost?"
There's a few different ways of doing this question. I think most people would probably do what I've done on the whiteboard. That's really why I've done it. Get a total cost, 2 coaches, 180 quid each, times them together, add on the cost of the entry to the museum or whatever it was, and then divide by 90. 450 divided by 90 should be fairly straightforward.
Question 3. A test is marked out of 60. Pupils need 75% to achieve grade A. How many marks is this? A test is marked out of 60. Pupils need 75% to achieve grade A. How many marks is this?
Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm doing at the top here. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, 75%, that should jump out of you that it means 3/4. I've basically done 3/4 of 60. Okay, there's a few different ways to write that and do that, but it's 3/4 of 60.
4. The school library is open for 5 hours 20 minutes per day on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and for 6 hours 30 minutes per day on Tuesday and Thursday. What is the total time the library is open during the school week? The school library is open for 5 hours 20 minutes per day on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and for 6 hours 30 minutes per day on Tuesday and Thursday. What is the total time the library is open during the school week?
Okay, so again, hopefully you saw what I was doing on the right hand side. Okay, there's a very deliberate thing that they've done here. 3 lots of 5 hours 20 minutes. The 3 lots of 20 minutes make a whole hour. In the next bit, 2 lots of 30 minutes, they make another whole hour. So our final answer is 15 plus 12 plus 1 plus 1.
Question 5. A primary school concert cost £80 for promotion, costumes and refreshments. The parents attending each paid a £1.50 entrance fee. 60 parents attended. How much money was left for the school funds? Give your answer in pounds. A primary school concert cost £80 for promotion, costumes and refreshments. The parents attending each paid a £1.50 entrance fee. 60 parents attended. How much money was left for the school funds? Give your answer in pounds.
Okay, probably most important bit for that is the £1.50 times 60. Do the 1.5 method. £1 times 60 is 60. 50p times 60, you just do half of 60, which is 30. So this is 60 plus 30. Okay, sorry, my mouse is going a little bit wonky.
Question 6. A school sold copies of the class photograph to 28 pupils in the class for £2.50 each. What was the total amount raised from the sales of the photograph? A school sold copies of the class photograph to 28 pupils in the class for £2.50 each. What was the total amount raised from the sales of the photograph?
Okay, it's exactly the same as the last question. It's a 2.5 method. I do 2 lots of 28, it's 56. Half of 28, because 50p is half of a pound. Okay, add the 2 together. We've got a final answer there of 70 quid.
Question 7. What is 15% as a decimal? What is 15% as a decimal?
I'm not even really going to explain that one, you just need to know it. Okay, there isn't really anything to teach there. If you know that 15, 0.15, and you understand your decimals and your percentages, which you definitely need to for this test, that's one of the easiest questions you're ever going to get.
Question 8. In a year group of 45 pupils, 27 were boys. What fraction of the year group was girls? Give your answer in its lowest terms. In a year group of 45 pupils, 27 were boys. What fraction of the year group was girls? Give your answer in its lowest terms.
Okay, I'd encourage you not to do the subtraction at the beginning. Most people would do 45 take away 27 here. It wastes time. Okay, simplify 27 over 45. I've used my 9 times tables here. Okay, divided by 9. Okay, so 3/5 are boys, therefore 2/5 are girls.
Question 9. A teacher plans a cross-country competition. The course is 3.45 kilometers long. Pupils do 3 laps of the course. What is the total distance run by each pupil in kilometers? A teacher plans a cross-country competition. The course is 3.45 kilometers long. Pupils do 3 laps of the course. What is the total distance run by each pupil in kilometers?
So basically this question is a test of whether you can do decimal multiplication. Tons of YouTube videos will teach you how to do decimal multiplication. I'll teach it to you if you like. Tap me up for one-to-one tuition, watch my videos, but it's essential.
Question 10. There are 35 schools in a local authority. 28 schools have been inspected in the last 4 years. What percentage has not been inspected? There are 35 schools in a local authority. 28 schools have been inspected in the last 4 years. What percentage has not been inspected?
So, quick tips. Earlier on we had a question I suggested not to do the subtraction. In this one, the subtraction's fairly easy. 35 take away 28 is 7. Simplify to 1/5, and then you ought to know that 1/5 is 20%. Reason it's 20% is because 2/5 is the same as 1/5 is the same as 2/10.
A school play begins at 1900 hours. It has one interval of 15 minutes. The play is 1 hour and 55 minutes long. At what time does the play end? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock. A school play begins at 1900 hours. It has one interval of 15 minutes. The play is 1 hour and 55 minutes long. At what time does the play end? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock.
Okay, so simple timelines for these are really, really useful, really important. I've added on 15 minutes, but 1 hour 55 is so close to 2 hours that that's what I did, is I added on 2 hours, but it's not quite 2 hours, so I then subtracted 5 minutes to get back to this orange 2110.
Question 12. 0.9 of a year group of 180 pupils took part in a school sports day. How many pupils did not take part? 0.9 of a year group of 180 pupils took part in a school sports day. How many pupils did not take part?
Okay, so hopefully, again, self-explanatory what I've done on the side. Lots of people get stuck on this question because this 0.9 confuses them, but as soon as I say it's the same as 90%, then they're okay with the question. Now, it was a not question, so we want 10%. 10% of 180, super easy. Okay, right, so that's mental maths over. I can talk a little bit more freely now. I've got a little bit more time to explain things in a little bit more fully and sort of tell you which questions are tricky and which ones are easy. Okay, I do think this whole test 4, lots of people score more poorly on test 4 than the others, and then they worry that they're doing something wrong, and the reality is they're not. It's a bit of a weird test. There's a few weird questions. This is one of them. Okay, now look, I'm a maths tutor. I look at something like 18 out of 53 in this question, so that's the number that are doing sports, okay, over the total, and I know that 18 over 54 is exactly 1/3, so this is the answer, the 1/3. Okay, I don't expect you guys to know that. The best thing to do here is you just simply do 18 divided by 53 on your calculator, and let me just do that over the side here. Okay, so 18 divided by 53. Okay, oh, that didn't work. I don't know whether that was me or the calculator. Probably me. Okay, so you get a decimal, 0.3396, and you write that down, and then all you'd need to do then is just look at each of the fractions and use your calculator again, divide them to see which one is closest. Now 1 divided by 3 is 0.33333333. It's very close to that. The others are not very close. Okay, so that's it. That's the question done. Okay, so we've got the same table but a different question on it. Okay, so we want the minimum number of extra pupils above the 53 who want to come to after school clubs. Okay, so what we've got to do is we need to read the rest of the sentence to see, well, where does it tell us how many people want to come to after school clubs? It says at least 30% of 256. Okay, so let's write that down over here. We need to work out 30% of 256. And I would encourage you to use your decimal knowledge. 30% is the same as 0.3, so you do a multiplication. Okay, and we'll grab the calculator and we'll do it. Clear the calculator. 0.3 times 256. Okay, now the question said at least 30%, so I can't round that down. It's got to be rounded up. So it means 77 pupils would like to come to after school clubs. But when you look at the table down below, 53 people are already coming. Okay, so we just do a simple subtraction. 77, take away the 53 that are already going. That means an extra 24 people would like to go. Okay, so main feature of the table. Now look, I can pick these things out quickly because I've seen these tests before and I teach this stuff all the time. Okay, but it's also partly that I am more observant from this sort of thing, just because of the nature of the job that I do. Okay, so when you look at the table, there really is two very important things to look at. Okay, when you look at the numbers on the end, so this number here, it's 180 pupils because it says total number of pupils. Okay, but these numbers across here, okay, it should be fairly obvious to you that those numbers are not going to add up to 180. It's too small. Okay, and the reason is because they're percentage, and it tells you that up here. It says percentage, so really these numbers should add up to 100. Okay, so it's a percentage question. Okay, so let's have a look at the first statement. It says the number of pupils who gained a U increased each year. So what most people do is they look at the 6, the 5, the 4, the 2, and they say, nope, it can't have increased. But you've got to be very careful there. The percentage hasn't increased, but the question is asking us about the numbers of pupils. So we need to do a little bit of work. We're going to work out what 6% of 180 is. Okay, so this is 2007. Okay, so we'll grab the calculator, 0.06 times 180. Okay, you can't have 0.8 of a person, so we'd round that up. That's 11 pupils got a U in 2007. Okay, so we move on to 2008. It's 5% of 200. Okay, so we'll pop that in our calculator. Notice that we're using the calculator as much as we can. Okay, now we got 10. Now as soon as we get that, we don't need to continue because the statement said that they increased each year. We've already found that that's a false statement, so I mustn't click this one. Okay, done. So next statement. Okay, now notice that it mentions number of pupils again. In fact, all three statements mention number of pupils. So really this whole question is just about using your percentages. It's nice and simple, using your percentages, finding out how many pupils it is, and then answering the question. So this time we're looking at the number of pupils who gained a grade C. So 23% of 180. So 23% of 180. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down the calculations, at least the first two calculations first. So 2008, it will be 22% of 200. So we'll work these two out because there's no point me writing all four down because it might be the same as the last question. After I've done two, I know it's already false, but we'll see. Okay, so we'll grab a calculator, 0.23 times 180. Again, correct bit of rounding. That needs to be rounded down. Okay, because it's 0.4. Okay, 0.4 would round down. Okay, so next one, 0.22 times 200. Okay, you see that one's actually a whole number, no need to round. Okay, so it's gone up. So far it's true. So we need to do 2009. So grade C is also 22%, but it's of 230. You kind of almost don't need to, we can tell it's gone up because it's 230 people, but we need that for the next bit of question. Okay, so we're still going to continue on our calculator. Oops, 0.22 times 230, so we know that's going to be bigger. 50.6, we round it correctly. 51. We've got one last calculation to do. 2010 is, well, it's the percentage has dropped to 20%, but the number of pupils has increased, so there's a good chance that it may well have gone up still, but we let the calculator do that for us. 0.2 or 0.20, it really doesn't matter in your calculations, whatever you're more comfortable with. Wow, look, it's gone up 54. So it has indeed gone up every year, so that's a true statement. So we quickly move on to the next statement. Quite long, these true and false statement questions. Okay, in the test, if you look at a question like this and you think it looks tough and it looks long, you flag it. You flag it and you come back to it when you've got some time at the end of the test. Go and do the easier questions first. Okay, so final statement says number of pupils again. Grade B in 2010. I'm just going to purely focus on that. Grade B in 2010, 20% again. Okay, so that's that 20% of 270. To be honest, we just did that. It was 54. Okay, so I'm going to write that one down. Okay, next one. The same grade in 2007. So 2007 was 15%. Okay, so we're doing 15%. But in 2007 there was 180 pupils. So we can look. You guys do that on your calculator. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I can do 15% of 180 in my head. It is 27. Okay, and the question says, was it double in 2010? Well, yeah, it is. 54 is double 27. If you need a calculator to prove that, you just divide them. So there you go. You've got a 2. It's double. So it's a true statement. Okay, let's have a look at this one then. So it's another two-way table, very simple two-way table. You just got pupils down the side, tests along the top. Okay, again, what's really important though is to look at it and think, well, what are the numbers? Are they percentages? Are they marks? What are they? It says here, marks out of 80. Okay, now for this particular question, I don't think it really matters. There isn't anything in the question that mentions percentages, so we just need to deal with the numbers. Okay, and it's a pretty easy question. We've got to go, I'm going to do this one first. We need the mean. Okay, so mean is always very simple. We just need to add the numbers up. So we've got a 41 plus a 51, and there's no shortcut for this really. I wouldn't try and do this in my head or anything like that. It's too tricky. Okay, we just add the numbers up. Okay, how many numbers did we add up? It's test 1 to 5, so it's 5 numbers. We divide by 5. It's 51.8. We drop that one in there. Okay, this one, it says range. Okay, so we need the range. So range is biggest, take away smallest. So you just have to be very careful here. You have to scan through that test 5 and look for the biggest number. I think 70 is the biggest, and 27, yep, it looks like 27 is the lowest. So we subtract those on the calculator if you need. Well, look, I say if you need to. Look, you guys should. Okay, look, I'm just doing a video. I'm under no pressure. My career doesn't hinge on this. Okay, you grab your calculator and do 70 take away 23. Okay, sorry, 27. Okay, and you drop that one in there. Okay, so there you go. Not too bad a question, that one. Pretty easy. Okay, lots of people get a bit muddled up with these questions, and I really do think this is a fairly sort of everyday life question that anybody might need to do in terms of claiming some expenses. Okay, and certainly, I mean, before I was a tutor, and even in the early days of me being a tutor, I used to do this. I used to have to claim some tax back for the mileage that I did. I mean, most of my work is online now, but when I used to drive to people's houses and do tuition, okay, I used to log my mileage, and at the end of the year I'd have to tell the tax office how many miles I've done. And it does work like this, that there's a certain number of miles you get at one cost, and then the rest of the miles you get at a different cost. I think it was maybe the first 10,000 miles that you did. You could go and look at it on the government website. So this could apply to anybody. Okay? So this particular question, it says for the first 100 miles you can claim 27.5 pence. So if you drive 27 miles, okay, if you drive 100 miles at 27.5 pence, okay, again that's a simple calculation on your calculator. Okay, that's £27.50. Okay, but we don't really know how many miles we've done yet, do we? So let's go and work that out. So we look at the table at the bottom. In course A we did 27 miles and another 27 miles. Okay, and then we did 32 and then another 32 and then another 32. Okay, and then on course C we did another 18 and another 18. So we did 186 in total. So it should be obvious that the extra 86 miles, see they're charged. Oh, I've actually read that slightly wrong. Okay, now I'm reading it a bit more carefully now. Okay, I can adjust my answer. That's not a problem. That should have been £32.50 because it's 32.5 for the first 100 and it's 27.5 for these miles. Okay, now that's a much more tricky calculation. So we get the calculator out and we do that. And don't forget, that is pence. And you really want to be able to very quickly look at something like 2,365 pence and just stick the dot in the right place. Is £23.65. Okay, so we're going to claim that money. Okay, but on 2 occasions we used the train. Now trains you don't claim back by mileage. You just, if you buy a ticket, you claim that amount of money back for the ticket. And the question at the top tells you that you did one journey that cost £11.50 and one journey that cost £4.70. So we simply add all of these 4 numbers together. Okay, so again, don't try and do anything clever here, just get your calculator out and really just focus very closely on typing the numbers in correctly. No mistakes. £11.50. Horrible, these blooming on-screen calculators. I don't like them at all. I'm sure you don't either, but practice, practice, practice. Okay, so I make that £72.35. Okay, box and whisker diagrams or box plots, they've got lots of names. One name they're not called is box and whisper. Lots of people call them whisper. I'm not sure where that comes from really. Anyway, that's not important. Okay, what they're good at is for comparing stuff. So this is an ideal question. You've got 4 different categories. You've got girls and boys in 2 different classes. Okay, so when you look at that picture, there's quite a lot of stuff that really jumps out at you quite quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at the individual statements. It says Class A boys have the greatest range. Okay, that should be obvious that that's true. If you look at Class A boys, this whole box plot is the longest. Okay, we don't need to do any numbers, it's absolutely true. Okay, most of these, see, this is why box plots are good. You can visually look at stuff and compare them without doing any numbers. Okay, so second statement, Class A girls have the lowest median, okay, and the smallest range. So when you get a question like that, split it into 2. Class A girls have the lowest median. Let's have a look and see whether that's true. Well, the median is these white lines in the boxes. It is, again, you don't need to work out what the number is. Visually, it's lowest, so there's a tick for that first half of the statement. Second half of the statement, it says the smallest range. Again, I think that's pretty obvious that the range is smallest, so this is another true statement. Okay, so third statement, only Class B boys have a median percentage above 50%. Well, that's clearly false. You can just look at this. This one is obviously below 50%. This one here is above 50%, this one's below, this one's above. So you can see there's two that are above 50%, so this is a false statement. Let's move on. Right, okay, currency conversion with a twist. Let's say that. It's a currency conversion with a bit of a twist, okay? In terms of the conversion, let's write the conversion out first. £1 is equal to 141.5 kroner. So that's quite a lot of kroner for your pound. Okay, people do get muddled up in this question because the numbers appear to be big. They will be big because you're getting 141.5 kroner to the pound. Okay, so that is big. Okay, so let's have a look. Now, some of these questions have red herrings in them. Okay, so we read through the question and it says 25 pupils, take 40 quid each. So I know what's going through your brain. As soon as you read that, you think, oh, let's do 25 times 40. And it's not wrong, but you don't need to do it in this question because this question actually asks for, it says how many kroner did each pupil have? So to be honest, this 25 pupils business is a bit of a red herring. You don't need it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at what one pupil will take in kroner. Okay, now hopefully if you've done my conversions video, you will be familiar with the way I'm writing that conversion out on the whiteboard. Okay, and if you've done the conversions video, you'll know that we're going to do a multiplication here. Okay, or you might know how to do it even without watching my video, but either way it's essential that we do this first. So we get 5660. Okay, now the next step, what most people will do, and again it isn't wrong, they will work out 1% of this number and then subtract it. That's perfectly okay, and if you prefer to do that, that's fine. But a slightly quicker and smarter way of doing it is that if you have got 100% of your money, which is this 5,660, and someone charges you 1%, okay, it means you're left with 99%. So you use that to your advantage and you work out what 99% of that number is. Okay, percentages are very simple when you use these decimals. Okay, I'll spend my life telling students not to use decimals except for percentages. They're very useful for percentages. Okay, most of my GCSE students, I would be encouraging them to use fractions instead of decimals. Okay, so there you go. There's the amount of kroner that people will take, and of course what you must do, as always, is read the question. Do they want us to round it? They certainly do. They want us to round it to the nearest kroner. It's going to be 5603. There you go. It seems like a big number, but of course it's a big number because you get lots of kroner to the pound. Okay, line graph. Okay, these are a good way of representing things. It depends exactly what the data is, but these are a good way of visually, again, looking at stuff. Okay, if you look at the pink and the blue lines, they're generally speaking, they're fairly close together, the numbers. Okay, but they do cross over at times. Sometimes national is higher than school, sometimes school is higher than national. Okay, but they're fairly close together. So let's go and look at the statements. First statement says the school's result were better than the national results in 3 of the 5 years. I think what I would do here is I would say, right, you've got year 2, year 3, 4, 5 and 6. That's what it goes to. And you just do a tick or cross for each one. So when you look at year 2, is the school's result higher than the national? No, it isn't, so I put a cross. Year 3, is it higher? Yes, it is. So we're looking, see, school is pink, national is blue, so we're really looking for when the pink one is above the blue one. So we move on to year 4, nope, it's not. Year 5, yes, it is. Year 6, yes, it is. So you look at that little thing that I've done on the right, and that clearly shows that that's 3 out of the 5 years. So there you go, it's a true statement. So we click that one. Okay, so I'm kind of giving you a nice, neat way of kind of writing that out to help you keep track of it. Okay, now the next one, a lot of people get muddled up with the word in here. Okay, not really to do with the maths. It says the school's result were within 2% of the national results each year. So again, you could do a tick list again. You've got year 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if you look at year 2, the difference is 2. It's 62 take away 60. When you look at year 3, 62 take away 59 is 3. Now as soon as we've got that 3, we don't need to carry on, because the question or the statement said that the school's result was within 2%. Well, it isn't. 3% is outside of that. So you're looking for numbers between 0 and 2, inclusive. Okay, we've got a 3. This is a false statement. Okay, let's move on to the third statement. So the improvement for the school from year 2 to year 6. So year 2 to year 6 is the whole graph. Sometimes they'll ask you just for part of the graph, but this is the whole graph. So it's looking at the improvement, okay, between the two. And in a way, the best thing to do is just to ignore the numbers for a minute, okay, in the question and come up with our own answer, okay. So when I look at the improvement for national, okay, it goes from 62 in year 2 up to 71. So you subtract those on the calculator, it's improved by 9, okay. Now if you do it for the pink one, it starts at 60, but it goes up to 72. Okay, that's an improvement of 12. So the difference between these is 3, which is exactly what it says in the statement, but you have to be careful. Okay, so we need to say which one of these is which. So the first one that I did was the blue one, which is national. Okay, and the second one was school. So it means school is 3%. It improved 3% more than national. So you go and look at the statement and think, well, is that what it says? So we have another read of it. The improvement for the school was 3% better than the national. That's exactly what we got, so it's a true statement. It's very easy to get these statements wrong without doing any maths wrong. It's to do with the words. You have to sort of unjumble it and be systematic about it and methodical about it. Okay, right. I'm slightly conscious of the time. I've still got quite a few questions to do within the time limit, so I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit. I'll be honest with you, this question certainly confused me when I first saw it, okay? But it's because there's some red herrings again in it, really. Okay, this table here really isn't needed, okay? And what we need to do is, if you look at the statement, it says click on the class in the table which has half of all the pupils in the year group who speak exactly 2 languages. Okay, so what you do is you go and look at the table, the chart, and you look at how many people speak 2 languages. Okay, so we look at this bar here, and it's 18. Okay, and then what you do is do half of 18 now. Okay, so half of 18 equals 9. So you look at which one is 9, and if you look at the yellow bar is 9, and you can visually see that that's half of this bar, and the yellow one is class W. What I want you to see is that this table here I didn't use at all. I think it's quite a tricky little question. I certainly got a bit confused with it. There was a distraction in there. I don't know what it is about the question that confused me. Okay, but I'm being honest with you, it definitely threw me a little bit. Okay, so the correct answer is class W. Okay, where am I supposed to click class W? Oh, down there. Okay, right. Okay, now then, very simple question this, but it's very easy to go wrong. Okay, and again, it's got nothing to do with maths. This column here is like a cumulative frequency. It's saying, right, you leave school, distance is 9 miles. You join the M56, you've done a total of 7 miles. You leave the M56, join the A556. This doesn't say that you've done an extra 13 miles. It says you've done a total of 13 miles now. So what that means is, from the last junction to here, you've actually done an extra 6 miles. Now, to cut a long story short, what that means is that this number at the bottom, it already is the total distance. So you go to the formula, it's 240 times 1.25, okay, and then we divide by the average speed, which of course you've just got to read the question. Where is it? 60 miles per hour in there. So now once you've understood that, the question is super easy, but it's very easy to get caught out. I don't like the question because it's not numeracy that they're testing you on there. They're trying to trick you, and it certainly works with a lot of people. Okay, it's 5 hours. Okay, now these questions, I've put some of these questions in my test, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't got the technology to allow you to click on a dot. And it confuses a few people because I asked them to write down kind of like the coordinates of the dot. With these DfE tests it's a little bit easier, but these questions are very, very simple, and again I'm slightly surprised how much people struggle with them. If you read the question carefully, it tells you that the mean is 217, that's the number of pupils, 33 computers. Okay, and the question says click on the dot that represents the school that is closest to the average. Okay, maybe there's a bit of confusion here in they use the word mean and then they use the word average. A mean is a type of average, so we're going to go to 217 on pupils. So you need to be able to read this scale off. These squares are going up in fives. Okay, so it's 205, 210, 215. So 217 will be about here, where my cursor is. Now I need to go up to about 33 computers. That's a little bit easier. Okay, now again you do need to know what it's going up in. So from 30 to 40 there's 5 squares, so each square must be 2. So 33 is about here. So now that I've got my cursor in the right place, it's not difficult to then pick the closest dot is this one. Parents' evening questions. I've got a webinar or video that I've done for time-related questions. I used to sort of, when I first tutored QTS, I didn't really think time was that much of an issue, but the more and more I've done of it, and the more questions that I've seen on it, it does cause a lot of problems. Okay, and this question particularly is a question that a lot of people get wrong. Okay, so timeline again. Okay, now the important thing with this timeline is that you can't have a break whenever you like. It specifically tells you that you're going to have a break between 5:30 and 5:45. So this is a break. Okay. Oh, excuse my mouse is a little bit. It's got a mind of its own. Okay. So then we finish at 1900. Okay. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Okay. Right. So what we've got to do here is, because we've got no choice when we have the break, we've got to work out how many people we can fit in here. Okay, so the first thing to do is to realise that that's 1 hour 15. Okay, but the best thing to do is to then turn that into minutes. Okay, so 1 hour is 60 plus 15, 75 minutes. Okay, and you can do this on your calculator. Look, you can do 75, and we want to know how many 8-minute appointments we can fit in. Okay, now when you get that decimal you need to interpret it correctly. Okay, it does mean that we can only fit in 9 appointments. Okay, we haven't got enough time, okay, for the 10th one, and a good way to show that is maybe a ratio. This is number of this is the number of appointments. I'll call that A, and this is the number of minutes. Okay, so if we do 9 appointments we get to 72 minutes. If we did 10 appointments, we would get to 80 minutes. Well, we've only got 75 minutes. So it must be that we can only fit 9 in. So we fit 9 in, there's a few minutes spare, we leave those as spare, and then we have our break, and then we come back. And the way they tend to do these questions is that this second bit is the same amount of time. Now if it's the same amount of time, you don't need to work it out again. You know you can fit another 9 in. So the answer to this question is 9 plus 9, which is 18. Okay, now I need to get a move on. I've only got 6 minutes left. Right, total number of staff days out of school. Drag and drop. Proportion of staff days out of school for professional development. Yeah, I don't like the way this question's worded. I've seen this before. Right, so if we go to the table then, okay, we're looking at 2005. 2005 is 26, but if you look at the table, it's got 40, so it's 26 out of 40. So we do that on our calculator and we get a decimal of 0.65. Okay, I'm doing this fairly quickly. It is a simple decimal, but I must admit the wording of the question I think would throw a lot of people. and I can understand. So 2008, you look at the bar, it's 24. Look at the table, it's 60. So it's 24 out of 60. Okay, sometimes with these you have to sort of look past the wording and be confident that it's just a decimal question and just go for it. Okay, another line graph. Okay, we can see this time that the blue one is underneath the yellow one the whole time. Okay, so I'm sure they're going to ask us some slightly different questions on it. First statement, the school's lowest point score was in year 4. School is blue, lowest 4, we look at that, it's clearly the lowest. Nice easy question. Next statement, the school's average point score fell from year 2 to year 4. Well look, see, lots of people read that question and then they think they need to work some sort of average out. No, you don't. The question says, the graph says Key Stage 2 average points for all core subjects, so it's already an average. So did it drop from year 2 to year 4? To year 2 to 3 it dropped, to 4 it dropped. It's a true statement. Okay, now next one, it says since year 4, so we need to sort of almost cut off the left hand side of the graph. We're going to look at year 4 onwards. It says the trend of improvement in the school's average point score has been greater than the national. So again, you really need to look at the numbers separately, but when you look at the graphs there's something very clear that jumps out at you. If you look at the blue one, from year 4 it's gone up quite a lot. Okay, whereas if you look at the yellow one, it's pretty flat. Okay, it has gone up, but it's pretty flat. So it's actually really easy to answer this question without doing any numbers. Okay, so we just got to get it round the right way. It says the trend of improvement in the school is bigger than the national. It's clearly true. It's a visual thing again. It's a true statement. No numbers required. Oh, another line graph. Okay, right. It says select the year in which the school, again that's the blue one, made the greatest progress in average point score. Again, I don't like this question. This is ambiguous. There's 2 possible correct answers here, which is always a bad thing in maths. Okay. The thing is you can go to the graph and easily see that the biggest climb is between year 6 and year 7. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to click year 6 or are we going to click year 7? Okay. Now, I would say to you that when you read this, that Key Stage 2 kind of tests are done towards the end of the year. So this score here would have been done at the end of year 6 and this would have been done at the end of year 7. So in my opinion, it's year 7 that the greatest progress would be made. Now I could be proved completely wrong in a minute. We'll get it marked, and if I am wrong then I apologise, but I'm fairly sure that I'm correct. If you put year 6 to this answer, if you've done this test and you put year 6, I can forgive you. You're not doing any maths wrong. Okay, so it's a pretty poor question. These are easy questions. I'm going to give you the easiest way to do these. Okay, you're starting with a score of 60 and it says that you should multiply it by something and the answer should give you 75. And because it's a multiple choice question, I would just put in the 4 different options. Okay, now let me give you a little bit of smart thinking for it. Okay, if you're going to multiply 60 and you're going to end up with a bigger number, then this question mark here, it needs to be bigger than 1. Okay, so that would rule out 2 of our options. It can't be the first one or the second one. So you just try the other 2. And look, I've got a minute and 20 left and this is the last question, so I've got time to do it. I just do 60 times 1.15. There you go, it's the wrong answer. Not a problem. We just try the next one. 60 times 1.25. You get the right answer. Now, on the Facebook page, if people post this question and people give answers, some people will say do 75 divided by 60. It's correct, but it's not probably the best way to teach it for people that struggle with maths. I think it's easier for you to take a multiple choice question, use the options, and you're almost certain then that your answer will be right. Okay, so that's more of a bit of an exam technique. If you had no multiple choice options, yes, you would have to do 75 divided by 60. But they are multiple choice options, so use that to your advantage. There you go, we've got 30 seconds left in the test. Okay, Moment of truth for me, I always sit here and worry and think, have I got 100%? Oh dear, I didn't. Oh, it's the mental arithmetic that I've got wrong. I will have to have a look at that. Okay, let's have a look. I've typed in something wrong in, that's annoying. Okay, and what's the other one that I've got wrong? Oh no, that is the only one I got wrong. Yeah, I got one question wrong. Okay, right, let me do a quick correction for that. Okay, I know exactly what I've done, so apologies for that. If I'd got something drastically wrong, I would probably just redo the video. Right, the question was, it was a currency conversion, and I either wrote something down wrong, or I just did something daft in my head. Okay, I think I wrote something down wrong. I think what it must have been then is that the currency conversion was 1.06, and I think I wrote down 1.6, so apologies for that. Okay, method and instructions for doing the question are exactly the same. Okay, it's a bit embarrassing because I said this is one of the easiest questions going, and it still is, but you must write the numbers down correctly, and I obviously didn't. So that's really bad actually. That's actually question 1, so I didn't start off very well. I got question 1 wrong. Okay, I wrote a number down wrong, apologies for that. So method the same, instead of writing down 1.6 and timesing it by 100, if I listened carefully and wrote 1.06 down, times it by 100, it's still an easy question, 106 euros. Okay, so apologies for that, it's a little bit disappointing, but never mind, nothing too drastic. Okay, so I hope that helps. What I would encourage you to do is maybe don't go and try and do test 4 again after watching this video, because you'll probably memorize a lot of the numbers. I have a test 4 on my website that is a recreation of DfE test 4, similar questions, numbers all changed so that you can't do it from memory. Okay, so hopefully you'll get question 1 right when you have a go at that. So best of luck with that. Okay, thanks very much.